the committee on an annual basis and sets out the proposed payments for councillors in the next financial year, and with the full document available on Municipal One. As the Chair mentioned, this work is now being undertaken by the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru, who've taken over the responsibility for the functions for the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales. Members will also note within the reports that the Commission have also shared the idea around a resettlement payment following the next Senedd election, and at this time, unfortunately, I have no additional further information to add, but update the committee as this policy area potentially develops further. So this committee meeting provides our opportunity to feedback our formal views as a council, with a provisional draft response available in Appendix B of the report. In terms of the response to the determinations made by the Democracy and Boundary Commission, outlined in Appendix B, the responses to determinations 1 and 2 have very much echoed the committee's response in previous years, in terms of very similar wording, with determinations 3 to 6 offering no comment, as these are areas which do not directly impact upon us as a council. However, noting that determination 5 is for co-opted members paid to be frozen, as Welsh Government are planning to undertake a systematic review of co-opted member payments across all levels of government. So following the meeting today, the formal response, so Appendix B, will be shared with the Democracy and Boundary Commission alongside the minutes of this meeting. So in terms of the actual determinations themselves, if we can take members to Appendix B. So within that appendix, you'll note the first determination is around the basic salary for all elected members. Determination 2 is surrounding determinations for salary senior members and those in receipt of senior salaries. And as mentioned, determination 3, whilst not relevant for this committee, relates to being chair of a joint overview scrutiny committee. Determination 4 is surrounding national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities. And determination 5 is surrounding co-option. Determination 6 surrounding town and community councils. So it's very much an opportunity for today, if we can take it, any comments from members surrounding any determinations, and also to remind members they are also able to make their own representations as well through the Democracy and Boundary Commission if they do want to do so separately. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. 2 points. Firstly, on a practical level, I understand that the interpretation is working. I will therefore be continuing in Welsh. If members go to their audio settings button on the left-hand side, and they can, I believe toggle is the right phrase, between the floor and English, then those of you who will hear the floor will hear me speaking Welsh. Those of you who will go to English will be able to hear the interpreter. So I'll just allow people a second to do that, please.
And then I will begin to speak in Welsh. If there is an issue with the interpreting, then if there is anything, please refer that to the chat function. It'll be sorted out. As we are aware, the Commission is continuing to aim to use ASH, the annual revision of pay per hour, to create some kind of baseline for the salary for councillors. And we know that this is an extremely delicate matter for councillors. So I'd like to ask the Councillor Marnie, please, to begin the conversation on this. Thank you.
Councillor Marnie. Councillor Marnie?
My apologies. Yet another button. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Kevin.
Thank you. My apologies. Yet again, a similar speech that you've heard me use many times. As I think I may be the only, I stand to be corrected, I may be the only councillor who's refused quite a number of pay rises over a number of years. I've taken some others in interim, but I, as you do well know, I have refused time and time again pay rises. I look at some of these remunerations now. The remunerations already for heads of committees and things like that, and nothing short of eye-watering, to be honest with you. I think it's time we gave the ratepayer a break. they're suffering under this Labour government and other governments as well. Many struggling to pay their electric bills, heating bills, all sorts of bills, water bills, of course, they've shot up, everything shot up, food prices. Who are we to keep on taking this guaranteed almost pay rise by the supposed, the independent pay review body every year? As I say, I'd urge the public to have a look on the Vale website at the sort of figures of money that some of these councillors on this council are earning. It really is eye-watering, especially those on committees. The same Boundaries Commission and that, who keep increasing the number of councillors. There's another load next in the next election, again, adding to the wage bill. So I will not be taking whatever rise is recommended. Well, I've seen the rise that's recommended. I will not be taking it from May. And I urge others to do so. You're all allowed, and as pointed out in the notes of the meeting, the agenda, that you can refuse. And I, for once, would welcome the declarations of any other councillors who might join me in this time. Let's give the ratepayer, I know we're all ratepayers as well, presumably, a break at long last. Why should we have a guaranteed pay rise while living standards are shooting down? And this is a part-time job, really. Even those who are chairing committees, they're not. I'd be very surprised if they're doing it full time and on £40,000 and stuff like that. That's just absolute and utter nonsense. Give everybody a break. Refuse this. Let's send a recommendation to the cabinet to refuse it. Individuals, as they well know, even if it is passed, they can refuse. And the means to do so is outlined in the papers of this agenda. I'll be refusing it. Please, before the end of this meeting, anybody in this meeting who wishes to do so, it would be nice to hear their declaration of doing so as well. And thank you for the time of giving me the opportunity to speak.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Marnie.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marnie. Just to confirm, we, which is this committee, are responding on behalf of the council to the recommendation. So it's not about sending recommendations to the cabinet. We are responsible for the council's response. The second point, just to note in terms of accuracy, is that the chair of the scrutiny committee will be receiving under the proposed order, that is, they will be the one receiving 31,560, not 40,000. So just to confirm, that is the exact amount for a chair of a committee. For a general member, this is 200,444 in the backbenches, which is an increase of 6.4% compared to last year. And this is based on the increase that was in the salary reviews for last year. So this is a report that was published in October 2024. So that's where that comes from. So there are councillors who have raised their hands, so I'll invite the councillor back to the discussion just to reinforce any points there. Thank you.
Thank you. Just quickly, yes, you are correct in pointing out that I think for this committee is 31,000, but as we do see the scale, which is quite clear on the Vale website and the agenda of this meeting, that what I think I stand to be corrected. I think I did say, and if not, I'll make this clear, that a number of the cabinet posts are on £40,000. I mean, the leaders on astronomical figures, and the vice leader, as it were. I do appreciate that some of you more poorly paid members are only on, was it 20? Did you mention 29 or 31? I forget the exact figure. So my point still stands, but I take what you said there.
I'll distinguish whether your point still stands, Councillor Marnie. I'm just clarifying for the record that a standard backbench councillor is 21,000. A chair of a committee, and I think you referred to committee chairs. You might have been talking about cabinet members in your head, but I think you referred specifically to committee chairs, which is 31,567, with a higher amount for cabinet members, which is 42,615 for a normal cabinet member for a council of our size, according to the formula that the Commission has worked out. So gobeithio mae hyn yn glir.
So I hope that is now very clear to everybody. I'd like to invite the Councillor Carroll to speak on this subject. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Chair. My comments relate to the Council's consultation response on this, because as found in Appendix B of the report, it appears as though the Council is endorsing the proposals brought forward by the Democracy and Boundary Commission, and if this response goes back in from this committee, because that's the procedure that's taken, this committee determines the response on the part of the council, it would in effect constitute the council endorsing the proposals at this stage. I'm not prepared to accept that. I don't think that the proposals that the Commission have brought forward are suitable or sensible. I don't think that the proposed pay rises are appropriate, and so I don't think that this council should be making a consultation response, a representation to that body to endorse this. So I would ask that Appendix B not be tabled, and instead this committee proposes a freeze.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Just to confirm, for anybody who is listening in, the recommendation, and it is us who makes the decision, this committee makes the decision, the recommendation is to note that the basic salary, he's talking English,
£21,044. The basic salary, well, the comment is the basic salary will be aligned with 3/5 of the All Wales 2022 ASH latest figures available at drafting. This is in line with the DBCC, the Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru's stated aims. And
it is up to us as a committee to make any further comments, or indeed anything we wish to respond as a committee. The Councillor Carroll has asked us to recommend a freeze on the amount. I'm not sure if he's meaning only determination 1, or if he means determination 1 and 2. Determination 1 is about the backbench councillors. Determination 2 is about those higher paid salaries. So if Carol could perhaps confirm if he is talking about both, and also if he wants to mention any other bodies, of course, because the recommendation, of course, is not to mention those which are relevant to us, such as town councillors, such as the park authorities and so on. So if Councillor Carroll could please come back into the conversation just to confirm exactly what he means. And then, of course, we'll need somebody to second that as well. So I invite the Councillor Carroll to confirm for us before we continue with the conversation. Thank you.
I would recommend a freeze at determinations 1, 2 and 3.
1, 2 and 3. Okay, diolch yn fawr. Gai...
Thank you very much. Is there anybody to second this, please?
Cynghorydd Bruce.
Councillor Bruce, I think you were the first to put your hand up. Could you come onto the screen to confirm, please?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you're routine.
So you second the recommendation to freeze at points 1, 2, and 3. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. The Councillor Thomas had his hand up as well to speak next. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have this discussion every year in much the same terms, and this much the same people who make the same points. The Democracy and Boundary Commission, the new body that's overseeing this, taking over from the IRPW, base their recommendations on 3/5 rather. Working week for most councillors, chairs, and certainly senior members of the council to far more than 3/5 work per week, as both you and I are aware. as are other members of this committee, and the procedure over the last few years that I've been involved in this is to accept that while everyone has their bills going up, everyone is under pressure for on a personal level and so forth. We have accepted that this determination has been reached in a very well judged way. It does feel difficult to accept quite large salaries, but it does reflect the way in which salaries across Wales are going, and therefore I will be supporting officers' recommendations, supporting that we note this, and opposing the motion from Councillor Carroll. As a note, in terms of the town and community councils, many members of this council are also takes seats or have seats on town and community councils. And for information, I am one of those, and I do not take any allowance related to that, and nor do most of the people that I know who are on TCCs.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Hanks next, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a statement, really. I just feel, as the Boundary Commission are now in charge of putting elected members into the council and in charge of salaries, then I think a lot of people would be happy to have more, each councillor to have more constituents, and would be happier to accept this increase and less new members at every election. I think the amount of, which isn't really today's topic, but, you know, 6.4% is quite a lot. And I feel a lot of members could take on more constituents and have less members. I just like that sort of as a fact and a statement that now the Boundary Commission is doing both, then maybe they could have a look at it. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Hanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks. I think that this is a very important point generally, which is that the same body now is responsible for the number of councillors as is for the pay. And there is a point perhaps to consider here in terms of whether the intention is that that medium rate would work. So perhaps this is something that we do need to consider and to note. Does anybody else wish to speak specifically on this subject? Councillor Bruce.
Yes, when I first started on this committee, the subject of salary came up, or allowance, as it's called, and I was surprised to find that it's based on 20 hours per week. Now, when I started in Roos, Andrew and I started, William, you know him as, William and I started, we still do far more than 20 hours a week. So what we get as an allowance is quite acceptable. And therefore we feel that, you know, people who don't do 20 hours a week, how do we justify sort of higher salaries when we don't know the number of hours that people work? We don't clock in, you know what I mean? So although, you know, somebody alongside me might be still getting the same money, but only do 15 hours a week. We just don't know, do we? So there needs to be more of how can I say, there needs to be more of more input into the number of hours that we work.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Bruce.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bruce. I'm not sure how we would arrange a framework to be able to monitor or keep an eye on everybody in the hours of work that they do. A suggestion, I think, from the Commission is that 60% of the salary for a general worker, that medium that we mention, is the recommendation that this is acceptable in terms of a salary for a member, a backbencher, that is to say. But this is a question for them, whether they are going to continue with that amount. And it's also a question for them, whether they think this is still valid, especially as we continue towards the next election. In this case, I think that everybody has had an opportunity to contribute who is a member of this committee this afternoon. And so, if we call the recommendation from Councillor Carroll, a recommendation to freeze any offers for backbenchers, which is determination 1, also members who receive the higher pay of salary, which is determination 2, and then also for anybody who is a chair of a joint overview and scrutiny committee, such as myself, which would be determination 3. So this is the offer on the table at the moment, and that's what I intend to take to a vote. Because one councillor has said that they are in opposition to this. And remember, we will be sending a response to the Commission from the draft report with this as a recommendation if the vote is successful. But of course, once again, the Council itself has promised in the past to abide by the findings of the Commission, which is to say that they will adhere to the recommendations of the Commission. So that's the situation. We will be responding on behalf of the Council, but the Council in the past has agreed principally to follow through with any recommendations that come from us. Councillor Marnie, your hand is up.
Yes, can I just request a recorded vote, please?
Certainly.
If anybody backs that up, I don't know, it's automatic these days.
Ti'n gallu wneud hyn.
No, you can do that. So if I can ask Amy to create the vote, please. So this will be on the basis of Councillor Carroll's offer.
Now,
A felly dwi'n cymryd
And so I take it that there is nobody who wants to make any comment on determinations 4, 5 or 6. And so the recommendation is to freeze on determinations 1, 2 and 3 and nothing additional for 4, 5 and 6 because they are not being discussed by us. Is that correct?
So ni'n aros ar gyfer
Just waiting for the vote.
I'm sorry, can I ask,
The
we're
vote
voting on the
on
motion,
the
are we? Are we
So
voting on the motion?
We're voting for the amendment, Kevin. Yeah.
Yes, so, thank you, I got it with it.
So plaid lais.
So we are voting green for the recommendation by Councillor Carroll, against if you're against it, and of course you can abstain if you wish to abstain as well.
hello, Chair. I believe all of your votes are in because there are a couple of councillors that haven't joined us yet today. So
Mae 6 gyda ni hyn.
I have 6 at the moment, Amy. Do you see any more?
councillors Ball, Perks and Prothero haven't joined us, Chair. So all of your votes are cast. So I'll stop that vote for you now.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr.
Great, thank you very much.
Bar results are displayed for you now, Chair, and I will switch to individual votes now.
Okay. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. Therefore, the recommendation by Councillor Carroll has been passed, and this will be our response as a committee to the consultation as well as the minutes of the conversation. Is that correct, James?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Okay, gwych.
Okay, great. Is there anything else on this item that anyone wishes to say?
Dwi'n ddim wedi, so mae'r argymellion.
Okay, so the recommendation as we agreed. So I am happy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to disagree with point 2.6, payment to councillors if they don't get back in. Is this still the same topic?
Well, we can note this if everybody is happy to discuss. Well, that is to say, if you wish to speak on it now, Councillor Hanks, we can put this as part of the minutes. I'm definitely talking in English.
Thanks. Then we can include that within the minutes.
Did you get my first question?
It was just about 2.6 and wanted to talk about the settlement payments.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'd like to disagree with that.
Yeah, if you want to speak now, we can include that in the minutes, Councillor Hanks.
Okay, there we go. That was all. I just disagree with it.
Okay.
Does anybody else wish to refer to that point or to anything else in the report so that we can include those comments within the minutes? Councillor Marnie?
Chair, I'm only getting Welsh. I'm not getting the English translation.
You want to go to the audio settings on your left-hand
Yeah,
side, Councillor?
it's on English.
Yeah.
It was working earlier. It's not working now.
That's very strange. Amy, I'll carry on in English for the moment until we can sort it out.
Hello,
Amy?
Chair. Sorry, just to say, I believe I've experienced it myself this afternoon. So once you've actively participated with your live activation button, when you then go back off, you do need to check your audio settings at the moment just to make sure you've remained on English. I'm working with engineers at the moment to correct that. But if everybody could, if you do actively participate, if you could just check your audio settings, that would be really appreciated. So Councillor Hanks, I believe if you check your audio settings now and go to English, that should be working fine for you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Just to remind people, there is, I believe, an ongoing internal audit survey on experiences of our multi-location meetings. So if anybody wants to raise any technical issues that they've received in this meeting or any others, then feel free to do so at this point. Cynghorydd Marnie, to actually conclude.
Councillor Marnie, can you hear me?
Oh, Kevin, you came off and you came on then. Hang on.
Okay, am I back on?
Back on.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if you could clarify this for me. I did read through all the notes and the Boundary Commission's report. I must have missed this item. What did they actually recommend? Did they recommend that if you don't get voted in, you get some money, or was it the other way about?
I think, and I'm not sure it's my place to discuss it. I think the point is the suggestion of a resettlement arrangements. They're going to look at this, but there's no more information or detail available. Especially, I would suggest if we want to make a point on this that we agree or disagree or have no opinion, then this is probably possibly a good time to do it.
Well, I'd like to say I disagree with that. I think it's outrageous, to be honest with you, yet again. If you get voted out, you get voted out. I'm constantly disgusted by, in Westminster, cabinet ministers. I don't know what happens down at the Fallen to Bits greenhouse down the bay there, down the Bay of Plenty. What happens there? But like cabinet ministers, for example, getting paid off after just a few days and a month, or being resigned or sacked. So, you know, hopefully we're not proposing the same for councillors. If you don't get voted in, you don't get voted in. Tough luck.
Diolch yn fawr, Carol.
Thank you very much. I think once again, this is a little different. I do take it that this is a recommendation to consider whether councillors who are losing their seats in an election, whether there is some sort of resettlement or remuneration, some sort of payment. There is a space here for us to disagree with that. We've heard from Councillor Hanks and from Councillor Marnie. If we do agree, I'd be very happy for us to add an extra clause into our response to the consultation. So, Councillor Hanks, if you disagree, I see that Councillor Carroll wishes to come in as well on the matter. Would you like to ask something, Councillor Marnie?
Cynghorydd Carroll?
No, I'm fine now. Thank you. Thank you. That's me done. Thank you.
Okay. Cynghorydd Carroll?
Councillor Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I too would oppose the principle of resettlement or redundancy payments for councillors who lose their seats. I think listening to the meeting, that proposal has already been proposed and seconded, but if it hasn't and it requires a seconder, I would be happy to do so. And to answer Councillor Marnie's point, yes, there are resettlement grants in the Senedd.
And so, is there anybody who wishes to disagree with us? Well, to disagree with us or to disagree with them, if that makes any sense. If James could recommend something for us to be able to show the opinion of this meeting against these resettlement payments to councillors who lose their seats in election. Would everyone be in agreement with this?
James?
James, are you willing to write something for us, please?
Yes, absolutely, Chair. If the committee decides they would want to make this statement to the Democracy Boundary Commission, we can include this within the consultation responses as a general point, not related to specific determinations.
Great. If I can recommend then, James, that we disagree with the principle of resettlement payments for local councillors should they lose their seats in a standard election. Does that wording suit everybody?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you very much.
Did the Councillor Bruce wish to contribute also?
I was just agreeing.
Yeah.
I can't put your thumbs up, so I've just put my hand up.
Yes, mae'n newid y trefn ar y cyfrifiadau yn ddiwethaf, felly mae'n...
So, yes, it's a little bit more difficult these days, really. Are there any further comments in terms of item 4 regarding the draft report from the Commission, from the Boundaries Commission and so forth? If there are no further contributions, the recommendations are to agree with the responses. We've done that before. We have also recommended the comments about the payments to councillors. So apart from that, we do note the report and we have agreed to send our response. So everybody is fine with this. I will then move to continue the meeting. Could anyone second, please? I'd need someone to second, please, so we can move on. Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks. Okay, if we can move along then to item 5, which is an update from Welsh Local Government Association Heads of Democratic Service Network. And so this update comes from the head of Democratic Services in the Vale, who is James Thomas. James, would you be willing to lead on this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of, as members will be aware, this is a regular item that's presented to the committee from the WLGA Head of Democratic Services. So where my equivalents across Wales will meet on a regular basis with WLGA, well, on a quarterly, 6-monthly basis frequency to share good practice, understand what's going on in the national space, etc. So members will notice generally quite a short report as the focus is very much preparing for the upcoming elections, as members will be aware of both the Senate elections and the upcoming local elections in the next 18 months. So the two main areas that were considered during this last session were the annual remuneration report, which we've just discussed in great length, and the second main area of discussion was the councillor induction survey, which with a copy of the presentation of the national results provided by WLGA in Appendix A. So the survey was commissioned by WLGA, and all members across Wales were communicated with nationally to get a feel for what worked, what didn't, what could be improved to support the induction process, the development of the induction process for the 2027 cohort of elected members. Whilst it's a national survey and only a small number of Vale councillors have participated, I'm sure members will recognise the results. The results and the feedback will resonate with what the committee understands already. As mentioned, it's a national piece of work, but alongside this, we do have a range of local information following our own local induction process in 2022, which has been presented to the committee previously and be used to help shape what we look to do in terms of our future member induction. Due to the actual level of content and the usefulness, so this will have in generally supporting the development of our next induction programme, rather than my future would be, rather than focusing on the specifics of that survey today, it's proposed that this item is presented as a dedicated item with further details to the committee in April 2026, whilst we share around the general plans in terms of member induction moving forward for the 2027 cohort. But it's just to share for information at this juncture to cite members on this national survey findings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. So this is going to feed into a piece of work in the future regarding how to help people with their induction in the year 2027. Is the recommendation for us to note the report today? Is there any questions for James before we do so? Nobody has raised their hand yet. So I propose that we recommend to note. Anyone to second, please? And then we can continue.
Bruce, yeah.
Councillor Bruce, do you second? Great, thank you very much. So moving on to item 6, which is 21st Century Democratic Services. James, are you leading on this once again?
I am indeed, Chair. Thank you very much. Again, thank you, Chair, for allowing me time to present this item. So the report is presented to the members today to provide an overview of proposed changes being explored within the Democratic Services team. For the purpose of this item, we consider 21st Century Democratic Services. To summarise, it's very much one that's going to be looking to utilise its tools and resources effectively and in the most efficient and productive way while maximising digital capabilities. This very much supports a number of organisational strategies and evidence bases, such as the recent performance panel assessment, Audit Wales Finance, the new corporate plan Vale 2030, Council's digital strategy, and builds on feedback that was provided by members during the scrutiny reshaping scrutiny proposals, and a range of broader guidance as well, which is you'll note within the supporting documents section within this report. So within the last year, rightfully so, a large amount of emphasis has been very much focused on embedding the revised scrutiny arrangements within democratic services. However, there are a number of areas beyond this where we want to modernise the council and explore alternative ways of working to really maximise productivity and efficiency. So just to probably caveat, improvement work coexists alongside other democratic work, so business as usual, such as committee meetings, the implementation of new arrangements, the new scrutiny arrangements, and the wider improvement activities such as member development, etc. And just to share this is not an exhaustive list, but represents a range of ideas which will realistically develop iteratively over time, and is drawn from lots of areas of good practice from Wales and beyond, with the initial table in the executive summary and the roadmap within the appendix, and providing an overview in terms of the proposed implementation dates for these changes. For clarity's sake, I've not included the Council's multi-location meeting policy, as I'd like to spend more time on this with the committee following the internal audit, which Councillor Johnson mentioned earlier, which is currently underway, as I feel that probably could be its own dedicated item. As members will be aware, there has been a significant amount of change in the Democratic Services team in the last year, including starters, leavers, and the team are a resource which the committee has oversight of in terms of its terms of reference. I just really wanted to assure members today that there's been sufficient workforce planning, including knowledge and skills development, as outlined within sections 2.2 and 2.10 of the report, to support this proposed direction of travel. In terms of the specific change projects identified, members may be familiar with some, but not all of the areas considered. So a brief summary overview of each has been provided with the body of the report. At this point, it's probably important to say I'm not seeking the committee's agreement on every change being presented today, as I'm sure members will agree or rightfully point to me, the devil is in the detail, and any changes will be taken through the council's governance structures as appropriate, as individual items with increased detail as and when appropriate, with members informed and involved accordingly. For example, the committee report template approach is scheduled for the next meeting of this committee. So the areas for consideration have very much been diffused into 4 key themes. So the implementation of Power BI, looking at the council's decision-making processes, our internal and external websites, so looking at our digital footprints, and the automation of forms, which are traditionally quite paper-based processes. In terms of my asks for today, I'm asking members to consider a few things, really. So it's very much around looking to notes the report and the strategic direction within Democratic Services area, and reflecting upon any of the areas identified within the roadmap to provide initial feedback and around the deliverability of the proposed timelines for implementation. If they consider there are any other areas they believe we should be exploring to become a 21st century Democratic Services, is it too ambitious? Are there elements you think we should be looking at? And then being for members to be assured that the team has the skills, capacity and capability to be able to support these change based on the training, development and workforce plan that's been outlined. It's probably worth noting as well that following this agenda item today, this will not be the final opportunity to share ideas for improvement, and I'm always available to discuss and consider any thoughts around the modernisation agenda, as I'm very passionate about this piece, particularly within the democratic space. Additionally, the committee will be presented with an update report in 12 to 18 months' time as to how this change has been implemented, what has been the impact, and what have been the lessons learned. So that is it in terms of my introduction for the report. It is quite comprehensive in terms of that overview, and should hopefully give members a bit of an overview, but happy to take any questions, comments, thoughts or suggestions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. You've obviously been in post for about a year now, a very busy year for you as well, and it seems that there are proposed changes within the report. There's a year of work ahead of you as well. Do the councillors have any questions or comments to James on this item, on the recommendations? Councillor Hanks.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask you what Power B1 is, but I think it is like a tool that I'm not familiar with at the moment, but I might be in the future. And the other thing I'd like to mention is, first of all, it was an excellent report. I enjoyed reading it. I thought that it was very good. And I wondered how many members at the moment get paper copies sent to them for all their meetings. And with the new proposed membership in 2027, would it be a good idea for it to be mandatory that everybody has to go online? I didn't see that mentioned in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks. I think it's a Power BI. And once again, there are questions about the availability about papers. There are specific reasons why some people receive hard copies. James, would you like to respond to that question, please?
Thank you, Chair. In response to that question, where possible, we will be encouraging members to access papers digitally using whether it be their laptop devices or whatever or suitable device to be able to access. But we do need to ensure we do have provisions in place to support members with as much as possible. So there are some where we do, in terms of additional needs, for example, generally people with, say, visual impairments, where they may need larger font sizes or be visually impaired, and the technology that we utilise does not allow the device to be configured in such a way. Then we do have the requirement to be able to provide printed copies, but very minded that this is something that we probably need to assess essentially on a case-by-case basis. Pragmatically, it depends on individual circumstances, but as an approach, we generally will be encouraging digital by default as much as possible, but with consideration for individual needs as much to ensure that all information is accessible to all members.
Power.
Could you please explain Power BI and how you intend to use it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in terms of Power BI, it's essentially a data solution. So it brings together, as a council, we have ranges of, and as members in particular, there's ranges of information around what you do, what you don't do, except what you do, and it's essentially a tool to be able to collate it all into a central space and visualize it to make it more user friendly. So currently, for example, quite a crude example, but if you wanted to explore, for example, training to see when the last date a particular member undertook a particular training activity, it is quite a manually intensive task. Whereas actually you can automate use Power BI as a tool to be able to automate that element and really make it as efficient and user friendly as possible, and able to present and manage information. So I would probably signpost to members onto it in terms of scrutiny recommendation tracker that has been recently launched online and is being presented to committees. Has started, I believe, last week. That was developed using the Power BI function. So you see it has interactive elements, so you can use it to filter information and kind of just use it to present more information in a more dynamic manner. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, diolch, James.
Thank you, James. Councillor Hanks, does that answer your questions?
Okay, o'n methu gweld.
Okay, I couldn't see anything there, but I take it that the answer was all right. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. There are two requests I'd like to make, if possible, please. The first one is in relation to the scrutiny changes that came into force earlier this year. I remain to be convinced that these have led to an improvement. I appreciate it's early days, but I would like to see a commitment to review these, and if it is found that scrutiny hasn't improved or got worse, then obviously things are looked at again. I do have concerns about the workload of the scrutiny committees now that we're down to 4. I would also like to see some work on the effectiveness of task and finish, which, again, it's too early to say, but I am not convinced that it's going to have the effect that we were promised. And the second point I wanted to raise was with regard to the papers for meetings, particularly full council, in that often at full council there are agenda items that are references from various other committees, and the link to the papers for that committee is not provided in the agenda for full council, and it's laborious enough for an elected member who is familiar with the system to have to then go back and manually find the agenda and papers for the respective scrutiny committee to find out exactly what we're voting on and the details in question. But I would suggest for a member of the public that would be virtually impossible, because obviously they're not going to be aware exactly where the council posts things, etc. So I think for transparency and ease of access, every time there is a reference from a scrutiny committee to full council, particularly those items which require determination, I think it should be standard practice for a link to the full papers for that scrutiny committee to be provided on the online agenda for full council so that everybody knows exactly what the item refers to and can access the relevant papers accordingly.
Diolch.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Yes, I agree with you in terms of papers for the full council. We should still be including a link to any previous reports which are relevant to that meeting. Could I please ask James to make a comment on that point? And also, if he could give us a timetable for the review of these changes to the scrutiny committee and how this marries up to the timetable of other work in his department. James?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for your comments. Yeah, it's completely noted around the element of linking for references to papers, so I'll take that away and explore that one with the team in terms of being able to make some see what we can do in terms of making some incremental changes there for you, because I think that's a good suggestion in terms of public accountability and transparency. So we would explore that one, and if there are any challenges, we'll make sure that's communicated with members. In terms of reviewing scrutiny arrangements, Audit Wales are undertaking a review, so currently working on the scope of this one, but that will be commencing in provisionally March to April next year. So in terms of that timeline, so Audit Wales will start their piece of work in terms of once they really get an external viewpoint in terms of the impact of scrutiny and the impact of the changes, whilst as members, as you all outlined in your terms of comments, it is probably too soon to see any longer term impact realistically at this juncture. I think we'll still have a sense of actually what's changed as a result and what areas need improving within the future. So it should give us a bit of thought process there in terms of what actually needs to be done differently. As members also be aware, there is also the iterative there are also quite a lot of iterative developments currently happening within scrutiny, led by the scrutiny chairs and vice chairs group that will come through the relevant decision making processes, but and also looking to encourage generally lots of self reflection and improvement within individual committees itself. But as an overall function, it'll be reviewed by Audit Wales within the spring, and obviously I can't say how long it'll take for them to undertake their fieldwork and comment on their capacity or timeliness to be able to complete it. But my hope is that for that to be available by the summer to early autumn at the latest, and then it should hopefully complement this work in terms of the 21st century Dem services work is very much work that's been on the back burner essentially whilst it's been focusing on the scrutiny arrangements. So this is the element of actually almost the housekeeping and modernisation, and we're undertaking the scrutiny work at the same time, reflecting, etc. as we go. That Audit Wales piece of work, we will be resourced to be able to deliver both in tandem. So it probably will be a bit of an early plea. We will be speaking to elected members surrounding the Audit Wales work, whether it be all members via a survey or individual interviews with auditors. So it's just to really be making yourself to make you all aware of that when that piece of work is upcoming.
Thank you very much, James. So if I understand that timetable, the work will be starting. Obviously, it's too early for us to come to any conclusions, and so the recommendation is it'll take time for this to settle during this year, and then there will be the full inspection, and then any recommendations will be forthcoming halfway through the next municipal year, and they will be included or enacted for the new term following the 2027. I understand that generally this is where this is going. This is where it leaves us in terms of a timetable. Is that a fair summary? Could you confirm, please, James?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. I think that's a fair summary. Where possible, we'll naturally enact wins quicker where there are some shorter term items, but generally it will realistically be midway through the 26-27 municipal year. Yeah.
So they'll know.
So as it was recommended during the discussions in March, it's 2 years of this level of scrutiny, and then assessing and seeing where we are for the next term. This, of course, is an active matter as part of this report, and so we do welcome any questions on this. I understand that scrutiny is important to us as a council, because this is where, of course, we are, but we welcome any questions on the work that James recommends. I'd like to invite the Councillor Prothero to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair, and apologies for my late attendance today. I just have 3 points to make on this report. First of all, the introduction of Power BI and the ability for us to be able to see clearly the recommendations that have come from us to Cabinet and then the responses back, I think is an excellent addition. I think it probably will need a little bit of support for members to be able to use it properly, but I know that's part of this, so that's great. In terms of scrutiny and an ongoing review, absolutely, I would expect us to do no less. And as far as the task and finish work is concerned, I just want to say, having chaired one group from last year and being a member of the communication one this year, it is not work that's done to us, it's work that we participate actively in as members, and that's what's going to make this successful. So I just think at the moment it's really important for Councillor Carroll and any other members to get involved as much as possible and play an active role in this, and that is going to produce, I would say, fuller outcomes for us. So lots of changes accepted, but I think we're moving in the right direction. That's my comments. Thank you very much, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Prothero. Are there any other comments by members this afternoon? I don't see any raised hands. Therefore, if we can look at the recommendations, which is for the committee to note the report tonight. Yes, with how they're going to do that.
Diolch yn fawr. Wi'n darllen y troi'r
Thank you very much. I'm reading through the recommendations. Note if there are any additional areas. Well, we did discuss, perhaps tangentially, we discussed agendas and links. And we also had some discussion about the timetable for the revision and the scrutiny going into next year. We also agreed that the Democratic Services has sufficient capacity in terms of resource and skills to enact the reports, and James has given us his assurance regarding this matter. And then we also agreed to recommend to receive a further report updating us in a year on the work that is emphasised in the executive summary here, which includes a number of targets for the department in the next year. Councillor Thomas has moved to recommend. Anyone happy to second the recommendation? If not, I will do it myself. Does anybody oppose? Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks. Any oppositions? No? In that case, we will move to item 8, which is the work to the future. Once again, I think this is James, as Head of Democratic Services, if you're willing to lead us through this item, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's the last one from me you'd be pleased to hear this evening.
last one from anyone, James. No, you know.
Very true. So I'm here to present just the Committee Forward Work Programme. This is very much a standard item now. So it's consistent of the standard items for every agenda, cyclical items that will be received with regular updates, and then other items that are on an ad hoc basis. So in terms of us today, it's looking for members to note the report and just to consider if there are any items in addition that they would feel like to be considered by committee, or if they'd like any additional information surrounding it at this juncture. And it's probably worth noting as well that the next iteration will include provisional items for the forthcoming municipal year, because as you know, we're halfway through the 25-26 municipal year. So haven't yet produced the forward work programme until the end of April currently, but the next iteration will include starting towards the next municipal year as well.
Okay, diolch yn James.
Thank you very much, James. Obviously, there are 4 meetings of this committee during the council year. This is the second, third will be in March and the 4th in April, as well as the standard items, the work of the WLGA, and the work outlined in this item. There's a recommendation for committee report templates, something that was part of the previous item as well. There's also been note of the internal audit of the multi-location meetings and how that has been working. So an opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, for people to contribute to that report via the survey which is out currently. And also a update on the development plan in terms of members. So that is the recommendation for the meeting back in March. And then before April, for us to be in preparation for the 2027 election, as James was mentioning there, in terms of the inductions and the reviews in terms of that. So that will be part of the same report to all intents and purposes. Are there any further recommendations, questions or comments for James on the forward work programme? Or are we happy with this for the 2 which are remaining this year?
Neb yn codi.
I don't see any raised hands. And so we can skip questions since there are none, and we can move the recommendation, which is to agree the forward work programme for the remainder of the year. Is anyone happy to second that? Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks and Councillor Prothero. If there are no further comments, that is the end of that item. There are no urgent items from the chair as number 8. And there's nothing for part 2. So thank you all very much for your presence and your contributions in this meeting, and accepting that there have been some technology hiccups, but I hope in the end that was all okay. And that James, as a head of Democratic Services, will be driving the response to the Commission tomorrow, I think. So thank you all very much for your presence tonight. And is it too early to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a New Year, since that is the last meeting before the holidays? Thank you all very much.
Night all.